if you don't know who I am, and many of you don't, I am Robert Moore. I am the husband of the founder and CEO of H&F Hereditary Neuropathy Foundation, Allison Moore. And I've worked closely with Allison since the beginning to help support the CMT community with programs and research and innovative things to help find a cure and treatments and along the way. And we're approaching our 20th anniversary next year. So a little round of applause for
Yay.
that. Um, so the way this all started was with a simple text message from Allison that I got on July 4th specifically. And it said, Mclain called me, crazy news, um, which could mean a lot of things. But if it's coming from Mclain, it's not only crazy, it's going to be great. Mclain is a dear friend of mine, an accomplished, and his wife as well, Claire Niederprum, a quintuple threat, if that is possible. He's a writer, director, producer, actor, and as we've already previously established, an amazing singer. And his wife is all those things together. So to combine, they have 10 amazing strengths between them. And so,
good intro.
Great
I'm
intro.
gonna have to remind myself of these next
yeah,
meeting.
you need to give this to your agent, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So get this text from Allison. Of course, I immediately text Mclain, I think like maybe 3 question marks, like, what is going on? And he calls me back immediately. And I remember exactly where I was. I was in the driveway of my mother-in-law's house. And he explained to me what was happening, which was like amazing. Now, Mclain and I have a bunch of things going. So I didn't know it was going to be this at all. We're working on a script and another movie that we're pushing along. So I was excited to hear what he had to say. And when he told me, I was blown away. It's like, Claire and I are going to be producing and directing a new Hallmark movie, respectively. And one of the characters, the main character, is a physical therapist who's treating his future love interest. And his mother is, in the original script, was somebody that had been in a car accident. And so she was also kind of going through PT during the course of the script. And Mclain told me, he's like, I want to change that dynamic. And I'd like to, and I don't want to have a character that's just going to automatically get better. That we wanted to have real table stakes for the character of Tess's condition. And I'm proposing to Hallmark that she's going to have Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, like a real disease which Mclain is familiar with. He'll tell you more about that. But that was not going to be like, a instant feel good that, Tess is just going to get better. Something that was real and grounded. And first of all, I was like amazed and shocked and pleasantly surprised. And he's like, but I want to take it one step further. Of course, this is Mclain. He's like, I want an actress that actually has CMT. We want to cast somebody with CMT for this role. And I was like, okay. So, and absolutely, my head is exploding, but it's like, how did this come about? Mclain, tell us how this all came about from your side as a producer, looking at the script, being involved with this project, why you wanted to change the character of Tess to somebody that, from a car accident to somebody that had Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease.
Well, I mean, first of all, I have had the privilege of knowing Rob and Allison for several years, and they've introduced me to some amazing people, including Bernadette and Estella and several others in the HNF community. And so it's just been on my mind, like I've done a lot deep diving into the lives of a couple of, people that have had this disease and dealt with it. And it's something that kind of has touched me and changed me and made me aware of something I didn't know. So when I was reading the script, so they hired Claire first as the director, and then what they do is they bring on a creative director, and I mean, sorry, creative producer, and I was a creative producer. My job is to kind of guard the script, look over it, try to make it as, polish it as best as possible, and take it to kind of a new level. And when, like you said, the mother and the character she was in a wheelchair, and they kind of were saying, hey, this is great, we're representing somebody that has to use a wheelchair. And I think the original writer was kind of feeling good about that. And I just said, I just felt, I called the exec, and I was just like, I'm worried it might feel a little insensitive to have it be this flippant thing where she's just healing, you know what I mean? If you really want to tell a story about somebody who's dealing with a wheelchair and dealing with a disability, or something that is kind of something that is chronic, not just like going to get better. I thought, how much better would that character, how much more would it bring to life? How much more would it add to the relationship between the mother and son, and just give us a lot more depth? And Hallmark, to their credit, they really want their stories to be less fluff, and they want them to be more real and meaningful. And so I pitched that idea. I thought, how great would it be if she had CMT, and to really kind of delve into that, and also it would give us it would give us authenticity, it would give us a bit of awareness, and it would also create an opportunity for somebody who really understands it to audition and have this opportunity. So
And they were all about it,
Yeah.
right? When you pitched I think their biggest concern was, well, we don't want to cast someone who doesn't have any ties to this disease. And Mclain said, well, I know a guy. I know a guy who can help us
Yeah.
out. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And then I think from there, Mclain, wrote things in the script, and then had Allison and Rob just kind of look them over and make sure that they were accurate and that it was a proper description, right?
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Absolutely. And one thing that's interesting is because they were all about trying something, but Hallmark is they really want their channel to be, they want it to be always uplifting. They don't want it to be too much of a downer. And they didn't know anything about CMT. So they're just like, is this going to make this too depressing, too anything? And I said, if you think that having someone with CMT is going to be a downer, you've never met anyone with CMT, because everyone I've ever met with CMT has such a vivacity to them, has such like a strength to them, has such just a buoyancy to their life, and they are not people that are down, in my opinion. They are people that are overcomers. And so I said, you don't need to worry at all about this character feeling like a downer, because that would be an inaccurate portrayal as far as my experience. So that was kind of something I think that helped them, say, okay, well, you know more about this than we do, so kind of make the changes in the script and then send it back to us, and hopefully we'll, and I was hoping they would approve it, because they still had to look at the changes and all that. But Claire and I really looked closely, talked to Rob and Allison, made sure, hey, would there be, in reality, are there people that are in wheelchairs and that are doing PT and trying to transition to using the braces and walking? Like we wanted to make sure that was all accurate, and they really helped us dial it in. And then, yeah, the next step was, let's actually search for somebody who has acting chops that is dealing with this as well. And that's where Joy comes into the picture.
Right.
And
So
several other of you as well that
Yeah.
call.
So once Mclain explains to me, we're going for this, or at least we have an opportunity to go for it. And so now it's, July 4th. It's the shoot starts August 3rd. Okay. And we're casting a major role. And he's like, can you do it? And I was like, well, we have, between our email databases and our social media and our Inspire community, we have tens of thousands of people that we're connected with that have CMT. There's got to be a few of them in there that have acted before, maybe are professional, maybe have acted in a high school play. To your credit, you didn't just want to have people with experience. You were willing to look at anybody that wanted to put themselves out there and audition for this thing. So with the team, we on the H&F side, we quickly got into action. Estella made some great creative. Courtney handled the email blast. Joy Aldrich, pushed it out through the Inspired community, and we basically held an open casting call with information that we had gotten from your casting agent and a description of the character. We had pages in the script, very specific ways that people could submit their auditions. And as soon as we dropped that email and it went out on social media, the email started coming into me. So I was fielding all of these. I was the point person on this. And we were not only getting great responses and enthusiastic responses, but people were so grateful at the opportunity. And they were so excited. And the story was like, I've never acted in anything, but people have always told me that I should be an actress. And I was like, great, bring it on. We're going to look at everybody. And so in that process and the instructions that we got from the casting director were pretty specific. If you wanted to hand in or submit a self audition, you had to read a bunch of pages of script, and it had to be done in a certain way. A few of the actors that submitted had acting experience, so I hooked up some of them with the casting director directly, and they had live Zoom auditions. And so we started to get these auditions back. So this is where we're going to first throw it to Joy, because this is where this project would have intersected her consciousness. She was either on the receiving end of an email or social media. So Joy, tell us what you thought when this comes into your email inbox, and
So
what happened from there.
Well, the first one that came that just said, we have an opportunity maybe to be in a Hallmark movie. I just fired off a response back to you, right, in like 5 seconds, saying I don't have any experience, but my mom has accused me of being an actress or something like that, because it said you had to be 55 to 60 with CMT, feisty. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's me, right? And then you sent back the second email with the list of things to do. And I was like, uh-oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. And then I called my sister and I just started reading the lines and, gathering up props. And we just kind of spent a whole day stumbling through what we thought we should do. And she would tape me over and over, and we'd look at it and go, oh, that's horrible. Okay. And then I'd try it again. Oh, that one's better. And then we would save the good ones. And we're like, oh, this is a winter scene. Let's go get a coat. Oh, let's go get a hat. Let me borrow my mother's walker. So that's what we did over and over and just send it off.
So you put a whole day into this. How many takes do you think that you did actually?
That's a lot. Probably 50, I'm going to say. I mean, we did it over and over. And we would do it. And then, honestly, I would look at myself and go, God, that's horrible, because what I felt like I was doing was not what I looked like. And who likes to look at themselves on screen? Even here, I'm like, ooh, so every time I would look at myself on the camera, I'm like, I don't really feel like I look like that, but that's what I look like, So then I'm like, oh, I heard you should wear a bright shirt. So I'm wearing the same shirt because this is my lucky t-shirt. And, so that's what we did, just over and over.
We should also mention that this wasn't a small part either. This was or maybe you mentioned this, Rob, but I think the audition sides were like 3 scenes, or it was a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of scenes, not like it was probably the third biggest role in the movie outside of the main 2 leads. So it was significant.
Right. So Joy was, I think, one of a dozen self auditions that we got. I screened all of them, and plus the actors that were had had the opportunity to audition directly for the casting director. And I definitely saw something in Joy's audition. There was absolutely something there. And I sent it over to these guys with a little asterisk. Now, when this is all happening, now it's literally less than a week before the movie's supposed to start. And Mclain and I are talking, and he's like, can you put me in touch with a couple of people, one of which happened to be Joy Perry. And he's like, I want to connect Joy with Claire and have her do a live kind of riffing type of audition. And so Claire, explain to us, first of all, what did you see in Joy's audition? And then what was that process like when it was just you guys one-on-one in the Zoom interview or the Zoom audition?
So Joy's tape was just, I mean, your personality just came through on your tape, which you just have such a wonderful spark that's in your eyes, and you're just full of life. And that came across, and that's definitely what we were looking for. Cause like Mclain said, like we wanted this role to be inspiring. And so that's kind of what we saw in Joy. And so we get on a Zoom with her, which is probably a little terrifying because we're in the middle, like Rob said, we're a week out from filming. We have so many things going on. We're trying to cast all the roles, and we're just like in business mode, like, okay, we're going to read this scene, then we're going to read this scene. And Mclain, I think you read with Joy on the Zoom audition. So Mclain was reading with Joy and I was just watching. And then I would give Joy some direction. And what really sold us on Joy was just how well she listened to what we were saying, and then like immediately was able to take that direction and work it into the scene. And you like stayed with us the whole time, even though we made you do it a lot of times, and you didn't get frustrated. You just wanted to keep trying, and just you had like the natural you had natural charisma on camera. And so once we just started directing you, and you were listening to us, we knew that we could get there. So as soon as we got off the callback with Joy, we called Hallmark and said, this is who we want.
Wait, there's a little bit of a wrinkle here, Joy, as you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
This is my fault.
So first of all, we had some other actresses that were in kind of finalists, and Joy was one of them. She was kind of our pick. But because the Hallmark they were a little bit nervous, because they're like, okay, look, we want this to be good. We're happy with this, but we need these. They're going to be acting with some of our best top talent. So if there's somebody that's great with CMT, awesome. But if not, we're going to go with the best actress for this part, because for them it was too big of a risk to just, if the person didn't really pop, they would rather just have someone pretend and act like they had the disease, like you do in like a lot of movies do, where people just take on that. But because we wanted her so bad, because we saw it, we did this callback, she was nailing it. Then we go to look and kind of cut together the takes, and we realized that we had recorded it wrong. So every time it would flip back to me every time I spoke, rather than keeping it on the viewer, it was all her, because we need to see her reactions. And Hallmark wants to see reactions, not just the lines.
Which is like total amateur mistake on our part. But this is our first time doing COVID callbacks, right? We're usually in the room with these actors.
So we just had put her through the ringer. She did great. We felt like we got what we needed. We look at the footage and we're like, this isn't going to work. Hallmark's going to be like, where are the reactions? What's this? So we had to call her back 15 minutes later. She was probably already into a cocktail, being like, all right, I did, And so we are like, I'm so sorry, but can you do it again? we recorded it wrong. And poor Adria, our sister who was filming, must have just jumped through a window. But
so good.
But she did do it again, and she nailed it again. And so we were able to take that, cut it up, put the best takes and send it to them. And we kind of did a little, because we found that sometimes when we tell them who our favorite is, they pick somebody else just because they want their, you know what I mean? Like
Because how it works is
it's
we don't
just
get
Murphy's Law.
final say. We get to put our picks up, but we have to put a few people up, and then Hallmark makes the final decision. So
we put our top 3 picks in, and they came back and they're like, we like this Joy Perry, and she's the one. And then they asked, secondly, she's one. She does have CMT, right? Because they couldn't really tell from the acting or whatever, but like that was the clincher. And then on top of that, the fact that she knew she is a PT, like that's her job. It was like this kind of extra sign that like absolutely she was supposed to be a part of this. So
Right.
anyway.
That's just another whole crazy thing, which we'll get into a little bit later in the in Joy's experience. So Joy, during this, you think you nailed it the first time, and then you get called back for your callback.
Oh, no, I didn't think I nailed it.
No?
Claire made me do it so many times that when we hung up the phone, I said, I'm just going to be truthful. I go, boy, I suck. Because I go, she made me do it so many times. I must have been terrible. And my sister goes, no, if you were terrible, she would have made you do it once and said, okay, thanks, goodbye. You know what I mean? But she kept making me do it over. That didn't click with me at first. So, yeah.
yeah, that is usually the case. Like usually if a director's making you do it a lot of times, they're kind of pushing you to see the range that they can get because they see something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in your experience, Joy, I mean, that was your first audition, so of course you didn't know.
I was just thinking, she's like, can you not get this right? So you kept asking me again and again,
Well, it's also too, because we knew you didn't have any film experience, we kind of had to put you through the ringer a little bit more, because on set, we had to see how directable you were. We had to see if you could take the curveballs and hit them and give us different levels and give us different, and so that's kind of why it's so
now know,
rigorous.
that's how quick things move on set,
Right. I figured that out after a few days.
Okay, so now it's the Thursday before, so I believe the date was like the 30th of July at this point. And again, filming is starting, I think on August 3rd. Joy gets the call, you got the part. What went through your mind when you got that call?
I said to Mclain, just don't hold this against me that I'm going to be like a babbling fool for about 5 minutes. Cause I was like, yelling and, oh my God, I can't believe it's me. And I was at work. So I stood outside and I just, just put yourself in that position. You just can't believe it. You're like absolutely thrilled and there's 100 things running through your head. And then you go, oh my God, did they make a mistake? And how am I really going to do this? I mean, I really want to do it, but how am I really going to do this? So all of those things are running through my head. But Mclain, he was so calm. You're going to be great. We'll figure it out. And just made me feel good.
And what did I tell you? What was my number one advice to you that you took to heart? This is my favorite.
Was to memorize the lines. And you said it so many times too. I was like, all right, you told me already.
And I said, I meant memorize them like forwards and backwards.
So it was like, focus on the lines, memorizing the lines so that Claire can give you direction of what to do with those lines, but really come prepared knowing the material. And, anybody in their late 50s knows that it's not that easy to remember things now. So I had to do this a lot more than probably, most people. So I would just practice, and everybody in my family, like my friends, my family, they know the script because I would just be making them practice with me, And then it got to the point where my son didn't even need the script. I would just be talking and he would just say the opposite line in this monotone voice because he was so tired of doing it over and over again, So.
Right, the classic counter read where you're just like, yeah.
But it was so key. It was literally so key because I think the hardest time we have with actors is when they're kind of they're a little bit cockier and they think they can just like come through, and you can see them like searching for the line. And we never had to do that, you know, with Joy, because she had them so down. And it was like, it's such a big, it's the number one kind of like cheat code I give to any new actor is just, if you know those lines inside and out, you can just, with the confidence, just say them and then react to them, you know. So anyway, she did great with that note.
Thank you.
So now, Joy, you get on a plane, I believe on Sunday, and you traveled with your son. You had your family come in waves. Your sister was out for a little bit, and your husband at the end of the shoot. So describe that first couple of days, like getting into Utah where this was shot, and what that whole experience was like, you know, as a newbie, right? You've never experienced this before. You've never been involved with a movie before.
No.
Tell us,
Well,
give us some
first,
observations.
flying with COVID, right? I was a little bit concerned about that whole flying. I had bought that face mask, with the shield, which was a mistake. That was terrible. But so we got in late on Sunday, and a guy in a car was waiting for me to drive me to our Airbnb. And then the next morning, and there was a car in the parking lot, and the keys were in the house. And the next day I had to go get COVID tested. And after that, we just had to wait a day, and then I had to go get like hair and makeup and get fitted for clothes. And I mean, so it was just a whirlwind. And thank goodness my son was there, because we had to drive ourselves everywhere, which I have a terrible sense of direction. So he'd look up the map, and then, you know, we just basic things. We went grocery shopping, set ourselves up, and we're like, okay, we're here. Yeah. So it was just like, I'm going to be here for 3 weeks. And, you know, I just tried all these outfits on, and then they would take a picture of me in the outfit and say, we're going to send it to Hallmark and see if they like it. And it was just overwhelming and exciting. Like I had this little trailer. Here's your trailer. Here's my name on my trailer. You know, everything, every little thing that probably most actors take for granted were just so amazing to me. You know, can I get you something to eat? Like, you did, people just were so nice. So it was really something.
So now we get to, let's say, our first day on set, where you're going to be speaking lines and acting with your co-stars. And your main co-stars was Michael Rady and Lucia Mclain. So tell us what that was like. And I want to hear from both perspectives, both from yours and then Mclain and Claire's, because your big gamble, and this was a risk. This is like, it's go time. So I'm interested to see what your perspective was. So the first day you're on set and you have to speak your lines. You're nervous, you're freaking out, or you're just ready to go for it?
No, I was really nervous, and I kind of knew I knew the lines, but I was thinking everybody on this set, which to me was a million people, but I heard then that it was kind of, you know, a lot fewer people than normally because of COVID. I just thought everybody's going to know that I don't really know what I'm doing here. So that's what I felt like initially. And, you know, Michael was so calming and kind, and he was like, I need to get to know you. We'll do better if we just get to know each other. So we were just in between takes, we would just chat, and he would make me comfortable, and he would go, let's read lines and say, let's try this again. And let's see what Joy would say. And I would say, well, Tess is saying this, but Joy would say this. And he would go, meld a couple of those together. So it was good. It was very nice. And Claire was so patient. Like she, you know, because I didn't realize that each scene you do a lot of times, many times. And she would make a little change. And then it was the same thing. I thought like, oof, boy, I'm just not getting this right. And it took me until the third day to realize that they do a lot of editing. So if you have a section that she likes from one take and a section she likes from the other take, they will inevitably meld those together. But I didn't know that until like the third day. This is probably common knowledge. So I was like, oh, like trying to make sure everything was perfect every time I did it. So on the third day, she was like, yeah, I probably should have told you that.
but maybe not, because you strove for like the best take every one, right? So Mac and Claire, like, you know, that first action, and that even that first time that Joy had to speak, what were your reactions, and were you like, we made the right choice, or were you a little nervous yourself?
Oh no, we weren't. I mean, you know, it's funny because every time a new actor comes on set, you're always a little bit nervous because you have to the director has to work with each actor differently. Like even the way that I give direction to Michael would be different than I would give direction to Lucia, who is our main actor and actress. Like, so you just kind of have to feel someone out and know like, okay, they're the kind of actor that I can be, just yell things from behind the camera, or they're the kind of actor that I need to go up and talk quietly to. Like you just kind of have to feel them out. So there's always that little bit of like, it takes a little bit of time to get to know how to communicate. But I actually really wasn't nervous about Joy's acting, because Joy, it's so funny you talk about how nervous you were, because you did not act nervous. Like you acted like you had it all together, and I think like I forget how intimidating it can be, because there's all this equipment around you. There's a lot of people looking at you.
Microphones in your face.
Just everyone's like touching you, poking you, like fixing
Right.
you, making you, and it can be really overwhelming. And I'm just like, okay, Joy, hi, so glad you're here. I need you to sit here, and this is where we're going to do the scene. And you roll cameras. Like it happens just so quickly. And I think we were already 2 days into filming when Joy had her first scene. So we were like, we were just rolling with it. And I was using all this lingo, like movie lingo, that I was just like forgetting that Joy had never been on set before. And Michael was so sweet, because he would be like, Joy, that means that the camera's not on you, but they still want you to be here. Or this means that the camera's on you this time, so he helped. He was just so kind. And he's one of the kindest actors that I've ever worked with. And he was so excited to work with Joy. And most of your scenes were with Michael,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys had an instant connection. And he, I just think like the chemistry between you guys was instantly there. And so that took a lot of the pressure off. And I just think we probably threw a lot at you at once, or I know we did, but you just handled it so well. And like, by the second day, you seemed like a total pro. You started to know the lingo. You started to understand how it all works. Like you just picked up on everything. And, and I think Mclain too was really great about just making sure that you had everything that you needed. And, but you just nailed it. And you did such a good job.
Oh, thanks.
And we were just so proud. And even like the camera guys were like, she's great, like it was just...
Yeah, I mean, the actors, Michael would say, I cannot believe this is your first film. I do not believe it.
Yeah.
Like he was very, very complimentary. All the actors were. But actors can always maybe like put it on and say, oh yeah, you're great. You can always, you always kind of wonder what an actor says. But the compliment that I know that they were all being completely sincere was this. Obviously, Michael Rady was being sincere, but I'm just saying our sound guy, he doesn't watch the actors really. He's back there recording. His name's Joe Sanchez. He's from Spain. He's the most gruff. He will say how it is. Like if he thinks if he thinks I'm looking ugly one day, he say, "What's wrong with your face, man?" Like he just says it how it is. But he said to me, he's like, when I found out that she was new and a first time actor, she's like. They're like, he says, people can fake it on the picture. They can fake it with their face, but they can't fake it with their voice. And I can always tell just by listening, whether or not they're scared, whether or not they're nervous, whether they feel comfortable. And he's like, I can pick a performance just from the voice. And this is what this guy does. And so his big compliment, and I don't even know if I told you this, Joy, but he came to me and he said, she's going to be great. Her voice is still, her voice is strong, her voice is confident. She doesn't seem, if she's nervous, she doesn't seem nervous at all. And she's going to be fine. And that was really cool. Cause it's another side of it that I don't really think of. I don't think of voice and face as separate, but like, because he's only focused on that, he knew from just your voice alone and that the quality that you would nail it. You probably always pass a lie detector test too.
So, Joy, you're picking up skills, you're learning on the job, you're having great rapport with your fellow actors. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about day 3 when you felt like you really hit your stride.
So just to comment on what Joe said, he told me that too. And he used a word like somebody's voice, he would hear like a quiver almost in their voice, like a nervousness in their voice that he didn't hear in my voice because it's so loud probably. But yeah, so by day 3, I think I realized a little bit more. I was always ready to say my line. And it took a while to understand that, to be able to put myself in a situation in the actual moment. So you were responding to the actor, not just waiting for them to finish their line. So this one scene, it was kind of a long scene with Michael, and I was like in the wheelchair and he was doing, helping me exercise. And I had given him those exercises. So I was really comfortable with it. And then he kind of just was, we were sitting next to each other eating, and people just bond over food, and it was such a natural scene. So I felt like that scene clicked. And after that, I felt like, oh, I wish I could go back and redo those scenes from the first 2 days where I know I was probably just waiting for my, waiting for my turn to say my words. But yeah, so kind of at the end of that day, it was really sweet. Got done with that last scene, and I think the last scene only took like 3 takes, and every other scene took so many takes, and I was just waiting. Claire goes, okay, cut, that's a wrap. And I looked at her and she goes, sometimes you just get it right. And I was like, we only had to do that one 3 times. Like, I just thought that was like the greatest thing. And then everyone started clapping. I mean, Mclain started. He was like, this is the end of Joy's first week, and she's a brand new actress, because there were still people on set that didn't even know that I had never acted before. And that was really nice. Everybody like clapped for me. It was very overwhelming. So.
But also
Yeah.
too, because you just naturally as a person, you were so nice to the crew. You were, you cared about the process. You asked questions, and you just as a person are just so joyful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
and
I loved it.
Responds to that. So it's, you bring a lot to it.
I love the detail, like when in between takes, or I would just stay up there and watch them like moving the camera around. And of course I wanted to get friendly with the director of photography so he can shoot me with the fuzzy lens, and and he would just, everyone was so nice to me. But I'd love to figure out everybody's role. Everybody had such an important role. And here's the thing that was so amazing, is that every person there had the same amount of value, and every person there valued each other that much. It wasn't like, oh, this cameraman is only a cameraman, and this person who's the food guy is only this. Everybody has such respect for each other's craft that was just such a pleasure to see, because you don't always see that everywhere else. You don't see that in business. This girl just answers the phone, where this is the important executive. But on a movie set, everybody had equal participation. Everybody was equally as valuable. It wasn't like, oh, the actress is only the valuable one. At least that's how everybody treated each other. And I love that. I loved seeing that and being a part of that and seeing what everybody does. That was really neat.
So one thing I definitely want to cover before we're going to wind down to get questions from the other people that are on the Zoom is, how did your CMT, because you do have CMT, how did that affect you while you were on set? How did you translate your own experience into the role, and how is CMT presented in the context of your character?
Well, how CMT affected me, there was the first few days, especially, we were in a two-story house. And when we weren't on shooting our scene because of COVID, we went downstairs. So I must have walked up and down the stairs 100 times. I don't know, maybe 50 or 100. It felt like 1,000, but up and down the stairs a million times. And didn't, I didn't want to hold on to the banister because of COVID, because I didn't want to like always have to keep washing my hands. And when the assistant director would say, do you just want to stay up here? I felt like, no, everybody else is going downstairs, so I'm just going to go downstairs. So really walking up and down the stairs that many times when you don't have any plantar flexor or dorsiflexion, and you have to lift from your hips, and then starts bothering your back. So, I was towards the end of each day, I was really uncomfortable, but I just felt like everybody was doing the best they could, and I wasn't going to ask for any special treatment. So I didn't ever tell anybody. And I don't think anybody really knew. And then at night, I really didn't sleep. I mean, my legs were cramping, but I would just wake up and be like, it was like I was having the leg cramps, but there was a purpose to them. I'm like, yeah, because I have this role that I'm playing and it's important. So this is a small price to pay. So I kind of just welcomed it.
She's also doing 50-mile bike rides on her days off, so.
Not 50.
Right.
I did rent a bike and ride. I was trying to do a little bit of everything.
Want to mention that Joy has been a longtime member of Team CMT, who participates in all our physical activities all around the country, which is awesome. So we
And
I wanted to say really quick, Rob,
yeah,
if I could, like, one thing that was so amazing too about like the subtleties of kind of what she brought, like we were able to get these little moments that I don't know if anybody else will notice them but the CMT community, but they were really special to me. I hear stories about like family members of people that have CMT and how they'll, I heard a story once that made me feel like somebody would turn the mugs in the cupboard so the handle was out so it was easier to grab, or just little things that a family member will do to help somebody who is suffering from that. And when there's a scene when you guys talking about the one where you guys are eating dinner, I think Joy, you said, we asked about like the pepper grinder, would that be hard for you to do? And she's like, my boys will do that for me, and they just do it, and they just said, they just know little things to do. So there's a scene where with Joy's input, she had Michael took the pepper grinder. She was trying to do it on her own. He just kind of doesn't say anything and just does it for her. And I don't know, it's just like every time I see that, it chokes me up a little bit, because it's just like the amount of love and the amount of care and the amount of like, just relationships, and when you know somebody's dealing with something, and people authenticity. It just was, yeah. Claire's better at words than me, because I get like kind of flustered. But I mean, yeah, just little moments like that are authentic, and they tell so much about a family that deals with this, and the love and just the dedication to each other. And
sometimes I don't think an audience picks up on all that little stuff, but overall people have a good BS meter. And I think that they can tell when something feels real to them or not, and maybe they don't even know why, but I think it always comes across. So, yeah. So we're just so excited for you guys to see Joy's performance, because it's wonderful. And the movie overall turned out really great. And, we're really excited.
Yeah, we can't wait either. Premiere date, I'm going to get this in now in case we run out of time. It is November 8th, now 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, and then I guess the same time on the West Coast. So they pushed it back an hour from what we originally thought. There's also a whole nother, a bunch of viewings in November that we're going to publish on the H&F website. So if you miss premiere night and it's past your bedtime, there's going to be plenty of other times to catch the performance. So we got about 12 minutes left. And so I'd love to open it up to questions. Estella, either if you could activate people that want to ask their question in person, or if you want to type a question in for either Joy Mclain or Claire or me, if you want to ask me something. No, focus on those guys, and let's get a couple of questions for Joy, Mclain, and Claire.
And I want to point out too, this movie is part of the Miracles of Christmas, which are the slightly more dramatic Christmas movies, and it's on Hallmark's Movies and Mysteries, not Hallmark Channel. So
It's different, so it can be confusing.
Yeah, so there's 2 Hallmark channels. So just make sure that you're on the right Hallmark channel, which they're both equally they both equally get the same amount of viewership for their Christmas movies. They just split it up into Hallmark Channel is more just typical rom-com, and then Movies and Mysteries is just some of the more
a little more dramatic and heartwarming.
Yeah.
So
Miracles of Christmas. We're on the Miracles of Christmas schedule.
Yeah.
which absolutely makes sense, because this was a miracle of Christmas to have an amateur actress with a real disability being cast in a major Hallmark movie. I mean, so many things had to come together to make that happen. Mostly it started with my 2 friends, Mclain and Claire. So if you have a question, I'm looking at the chat box. Here's one from Adria that I can answer. Will there be a graphic at the end of the movie for more info about CMT checkout? Unfortunately, the way Hallmark rolls, these movies roll from one to another, and the credits are actually zooming in while the other movie is starting in kind of an overlay. So that didn't seem like that was going to be the best opportunity. So we're hopefully going to work out some other things with Hallmark to be promoted on their different websites.
But within the movie, they specifically mention Charcot-Marie-Tooth.
There's a line that gives me the chills every time where
No, don't spoil it.
All right, I won't
You
spoil
have
it.
to tune in.
I know what you're talking about.
Joy
'Cause
knows
it-
what I'm talking about.
I do too. I got all teary when you said it.
Yeah. So, but it is very clear, and it is, so anyway, I think it's a really good plug, because it's subtle. It's not over the top, but it's just anyway, sorry. I blab too much, Claire says.
Okay, any other questions from anybody in the that's watching?
Rob, did you see the other question from Michelle? She wants to know if Joy has the acting bug now.
Oh, awesome.
Do I have the acting bug? I kind of do. I mean, I realize that the one thing that didn't bother me that surprised people, like when, Claire was saying how there are all these people around you and the camera was this close to you, that wasn't the thing that bothered me. So I felt really comfortable in that place where, you're in the middle of all the activity and you can take direction, and it was really exciting. I mean, it was exhausting, but I would love to do it again. Yeah.
And you should.
You should get
Thank
an agent.
Rob can be your agent.
Yeah. I'm sure
Well,
there's stuff that
he'd be
shoots in
better than
I'm
Orlando.
still waiting for my 10% on this role, so we'll see how that works out. No, actually, Joy, you should. And now that she's had a speaking role in a real movie, she gets a SAG card, right?
Yes.
Potentially,
Join SAG
if you want to pay your dues.
Yeah.
But that actually, Joy, makes a big difference. If you have a SAG card, there's certain movies and TV shows that you can only act on if you have a SAG card. So being able to say
I'll
that you
look
have
into
one
that.
is a big deal.
Okay.
So maybe we can ask Joy, and I'll ask Joy another question. So now post-movie, you're home, right? You've been doing press. What kind of neat things have you been doing since you've been back that are helping? Not only how did it feel going back to your life as a civilian? And then what has it been like with some of the promotions and stuff that you've been involved with?
Well, I've been really lucky to do a lot of, they're smaller publications, but I'm a swimmer and I'm a US Masters swim coach, and there's a publication that they put out. I'm just going to show it to you. So, I don't think you can see it, but anyway, it's Swimmer Magazine. And so that came out today. It's usms.org, usmasterswim.org. There's an article about the movie and about HNF in there. And then the publication comes out in January. There's another local magazine here where I live called Oviedo Winter Springs Life. So every time somebody contacts me, I'll say to them that, oh, I'll do this interview if it's not just about me, if it's about, you know, the movie and the bigger picture and Allison and hereditary neuropathy. So I feel like I've been able to have this wide net for this role that I've played. And that's been the most exciting thing. Growing Bolder, I did an interview for Growing Bolder. I was on a Spanish speaking podcast, and I don't even speak Spanish because the girl who does the podcast found out through my friend who she runs with that I was in a movie, and the girl who does the podcast loves Hallmark so much that she did an English speaking episode just so I could be on there.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of those opportunities.
Which is terrific. And we're working on getting you some national coverage too. So hopefully that'll come through in the next couple of weeks. So just some quick questions that are coming from Young Lee asked, is there any dialogue in the film that explains what CMT is? Look, in the context of what Mclain was able to accomplish, you know, we couldn't do a big expository scene about what CMT is, but I think contextually we'll save it for the movie, that CMT is represented authentically and it's explained what it is. And I think that's a huge win, not only for Hallmark in presenting that, but for the CMT community as a whole. Melissa's asking, is this for a film that CMT has been featured in? Perhaps. There was a Law and Order that actually had a patient with CMT on it a couple of years ago. Allison and I were completely shocked. We're like, did we just hear that right? Charcot-Marie-Tooth. Yeah, so this probably is the first big, you know, with a major brand where CMT is featured prominently. Promise you though, it won't be the last. That's a project that we're working on with Mclain and Clare, which we're not going to say too much about, but we have something pretty serious in the works that I think is quite exciting. Raylene Gaddis, who is one of our, I'm recognizing some of these names that auditioned, and quickly to everybody that auditioned, that just responded and sent in a audition. Props to all of you for going outside of your comfort level. Really was, it's quite touching for me to see all the effort that went in on your part. So Raylene is asking, do you feel more empowered with your CMT in your endeavors?
Well, I feel really empowered, regardless, not just because of CMT. Like I just kind of, CMT always makes me think, what can I do I'm not going to let it limit me, I guess, you know, so I'm always kind of pushing the envelope, and I do that physically. But if I take a step back and think, regardless of CMT, how many people that are 57 get to do something completely different in a completely different environment, you know? So that, taking that chance to do that and given the opportunity with CMT, that was just life-changing for me, so.
Right, amazing. So we're coming down to our last couple of minutes. So I would like to thank everybody that joined us. Thank Joy, of course, for not only putting yourself out there and representing the CMT community, coming on board, doing all this great publicity and mentioning HNF when she's out there. It means a lot to us, means a lot to Allison. Mclain and Clare, I know you guys are always busy. Anything you want to promote besides the Christmas bow?
Yeah, what else are you doing?
Well, if any of you have the acting bug, we just announced open auditions for another movie we're doing that we're about to shoot in about 3 weeks, called Once I Was Engaged. It's a sequel to a movie we made that you can see on Amazon Prime called Once I Was a Beehive. So, but if you go to onceiwasengaged.com, you can check out the sides, and if anyone there, like if there's anything on there that you think fits for you, feel free to send it in, because we really, I find that you can find, like, the diamonds in the rough out there, and like we found with Joy, and so we kind of we try to do this when we can, and so yeah, check it out, and also just
Well, you have Christmas in Vienna.
yeah,
That's
oh yeah,
coming out, right?
Vienna will be a movie that I shot. It will air the following week, which is oddly about a different violin player that goes to Vienna.
But we got the real violin player
Yeah.
in ours.
But that'll be on
Yeah.
November 14th on the Hallmark channel, so the other one. So yeah, and I think somebody asked if there will be, if Hallmark will be more open to featuring people with disabilities in their movies. And I think the answer is absolutely. Even Hollywood in general, I think there's going to be a trend moving towards that. I got a really great article, a couple of really great articles from Bernadette that talked about Hollywood and kind of the need and the want to do this. And anyway, it's exciting time for, different voices and different people from all walks of life to be represented, and we're happy to be allies and a part of that, and we're really grateful for our connection with HNF and all the beautiful people we've met through that.
Well, of course, mad props to both of you for championing CMT and the CMT community. We will be forever grateful, and we're so excited to see your movie. We're so excited to see Joy represent the CMT community on screen in her first inaugural acting role, which is certainly not going to be the last, I'm going to predict. So again, the premiere date is going to be November 8th at 10 p.m. on Hallmark Mysteries and
Movies and Mysteries.
Movies and Mysteries. So you got to check your local listings for that, and we will be publishing the full distribution calendar on HNF, probably in conjunction with the replay of this Zoom broadcast.
Yeah, and if you follow Hallmark on Instagram, they're great about just updating what movie's coming out this week and stuff. So they should start promoting ours probably next Monday. So it's a good way to follow along and just see updates. And
I want to add before we go that we are going to try to pull some type of impromptu viewing party, a virtual viewing party. We'll be pushing out the details on that probably the week before. So next week, actually. And Estella, we've been doing these movie viewing parties, which have been really fun. So we'll keep you posted on that, and that'll probably get blasted out through an HNF email. So everybody stay tuned. With that, I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you so much to Joy, Mclain, and Claire.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you for everybody that came and viewed. See you on the viewing party. Merry Christmas.
Yay,
Bye.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Bye.